Okay, hey everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the gut reset protocol. I'm sure if you follow Little Origin or my page, The Nutritional Paradigm, you will see that an ample amount of times in terms of why we talk about this and why we call it kind of the three pillars or the three foundations of gut health. And we're going to be talking about three things, of course. It's going to be human milk oligosaccharides, which we have right here, as you've seen. Little Origin's pure HMO prebiotic powder. We're going to be talking about apple peel powder or just apple peels in general, whichever you prefer. I find this to be a bit cheaper and less messy than having 40 apples flood your kitchen. And then that's going to be, of course, the feed Akkermansia. And of course, we have these simple reds, which, red phenol powders have been around for quite some time in terms of energy, but now we know why we want to use them for gut health purposes. So again, I would kind of look at each one of these as 1/3 to the overall battle. I would lean more in favor of HMO being the most important of the bunch, just because it is the origin of the microbiome. It's the origin story and where it all began. So what I want to discuss is the difference between prebiotics, which all of these three things can be considered a prebiotic, versus a probiotic. Okay, and I think a lot of times we can just get a bunch of probiotics and give in to kind of the marketing like I have before. And unfortunately, I ended up getting SIBO because I was just really having horrible gut issues, just trying to do anything to solve it. So I was just taking probiotic after probiotic, all these multi-strains with billions and billions of bacteria cultures. And, unfortunately, you can get a lot of good bacteria in the wrong place, right? We can't really guarantee where these things land in the gut. And that's the beauty of a prebiotic, is that it will always resist digestion. So it passes through the gut undigested and goes and travels to the colon to feed the resident bacteria. And bifidobacteria, lactobacillus, all of these good bacteria strains are colon dwellers, right? This is where the good bacteria and the bulk majority of our microbes and microbiome reside, in the colon, okay? And this is where we are going to start repairing it with these things. So the reason we want to look at human milk oligosaccharides is, again, this is where immunity began. This is what kept the baby safe, mother's milk, of course. And the main strain we utilize is the most researched one of them all, and it is 2-fucosyl lactose with a ton of good research to support it. But again, I don't want to just share the research. A lot of this is experimental knowledge as well. These things have helped me literally reverse a gluten intolerance and a lactose intolerance. Like, I can finally eat cheese and bread and pizza again without being constipated, bloated, gassy, skin issues, and grumpy afterwards. So, if it's worked for me, it can absolutely work for yourself. So a lot of this actually came into fruition from the 2020 book, The Immunity Code by Joel Greene. So a revolutionary indeed. He has been able to dive deep into the research and give us a really big head start and put us absolutely 10 years ahead, right? Because a lot of us are still kind of talking about the probiotics, colostrum, and these things, again, are good things. But I don't think they really hold a torch to these products right here, and how these small things that are very affordable can actually make a massive impact on our overall gut health. So I would say it's for people, for everyone, absolutely everyone. If you just want to kind of increase longevity, if you want to eliminate gas and bloating, and if you have trouble digesting raw plant fibers, especially like say chickpeas and raw broccoli and cauliflower and garlic, then absolutely this would be your first step. As well as leaky gut and IBS, and of course the more severe things, IBD, that would be a bit trickier, which we will not cover, of course. But overall, this will be a great advantage to your gut. And as we know, all disease does begin in the gut. It's super, super important to know that. This is our first line of defense. And really, where we can start is that thin layer of mucus that coats the gut. Okay, so that thin layer of mucus is typically strengthened by Akkermansia. Right? And Akkermansia is the gut bacteria metabolite that is fed by a lot of different fibers, but more specifically apple peels. Okay, apple peels contain what are called highly polymerized procyanidins. Now, you don't have to remember that, of course, but really what it does is that it's such a powerful polyphenol that it sits in the gut and just ferments. The body is unable to digest it. So what it's doing is as it's fermenting, it's releasing more than 8 times more Akkermansia than any other food source. Okay, so now we have something of the apple peel powder that is feeding the gut mucosal lining. It is keeping it strong and tight so nothing can escape through. All right, so now we have leaky gut. Of course, different endotoxins like lipopolysaccharide can seep through and target a ton of systemic inflammation into our fat mass and so forth. Next, we have human milk oligosaccharides. So again, the main strain that we utilize is 2-fucosyl lactose. And so those may wondering, can I have this if I'm lactose intolerant? And the answer is yes. So it's quite paradoxical, but the foods that cause the issues are also the ones to solve them. So you would take this and the red phenols, the apple peel powder, synergistically to your, say, small piece of bread or small piece of cheese, and slowly continue to scale up week by week until your body has been retrained in order to digest these foods. Okay, so think of bacteria like a muscle, right? If we're going to just load in if we have a gluten sensitivity and we're just going to load in slice of pizza after slice of pizza, you're going to cause a lot of fatigue and you're going to cause a lot of issues with that muscle, overly strained. But if we're going to the gym, and for example, and we lift a little bit by a little bit by a little bit, we get stronger and stronger and stronger, and so does that bacteria, right? So a lot of times if we're going gluten-free and we avoid gluten for 6 months, well, we've kind of lost that muscle to be able to digest it again. So we have to be able to slowly introduce it while simultaneously increasing bifidobacteria. And that's exactly what HMOs do. 2-fucosyl lactose is one of the best proliferators of bifidobacteria. And you notice this really quick, like within 3 days, your brain fog typically goes away, your energy levels skyrocket, and you become way more frequent in terms of bowel movements. It's fantastic. It works really well, and that is a huge sign that you are proliferating bifidobacteria. And some questions too is this, okay, well, why are we just focusing on bifido and why not any of the other strains? Well, bifido, we got to think of it as the mother bacteria. It's actually going to feed all the other residual guys just through a trickle-down effect. So it's very powerful in that respect. Okay, so last but not least, we have the simple reds. These things in red phenol powders have been around for quite some time, but we don't fully understand until this point, I would say, until its massive effect on gut health. Okay, so really what's happening here is that polyphenols are fantastic at feeding good gut bacteria. And polyphenols are really just pigments. They actually give, say, raspberries the red color and blackberries their black color. And actually what they do is that these pigments will come into the digestive tract, they'll start to ferment, and they will feed commensal bacteria, right? So it has all these different cross-feeding reactions. Commensal bacteria will start to feed bifido and vice versa. And commensal bacteria is just what the name implies. It just infers health upon the host. So we have these 3 things that can massively impact gut health. So how do we use them, right? And if it's your first time, go slow, slowly scale up. That's super, super important because if you go for that full 2-gram dose or that full scoop or 3 capsules right up front, you may feel a bit bloated, to say the least. So if it's your first time, start with 1 capsule, a third of a scoop, and do that for about 3 to 4 days. The next 3 to 4 days to finish off the week, go for about half a scoop or 2 capsules. And then once you finish that kind of transition phase, your average regular dose will be about 3 capsules or 1 scoop, which is equivalent to about 2 grams. And then you can do that for the future. For however long you kind of introduce human milk oligosaccharides into your diet. So with that, we can start to slowly kind of pair that with the reds. You can start with 1 scoop about a few days after you've introduced the HMOs. And then after about the first week, this is typically where I like to introduce the apple peel powder. And you can start with a scoop and then kind of raise up to about 2. Okay, so typically how I introduce these things now that I've already introduced these things to my system, a year or 2 ago, maybe 2 years now. So I will use them strategically, maybe after a bad weekend of eating, maybe there's been a lot of beer involved, a lot of pizza, which I continue to reference for good reason. And maybe we just kind of need to get our gut bacteria right back on check and right back on point. So that's when I would introduce these things for about maybe 3 to 7 days post. And I can do that kind of strategically maybe every month or so, or every other month I introduce them for a week. And everyone has a different protocol. right? Typically for myself, I just like to kind of incorporate it into a protein shake. Just get a shaker cup, put it in there, and just have that with your breakfast. I know others, of course, who've had really good success doing this every single day, for example. So really, it's just coming down to what works best for you. Experiment with these things, try it out, but it's nice to kind of just mix them all into one kind of cup, have it with a protein shake, a smoothie, whichever way kind of works best for you. And then, yeah, try it out in terms of timing, right? Because again, like we can do this for about 3 weeks straight every 3 months. You can do it for about a week straight every month, or you can just do it every single day, right? And see what kind of works best for you and what kind of results that you're feeling. So yeah, honestly, best of luck. I think, again, these 3 things, super cost efficient, super affordable, and super effective as kind of the 3 pillars and foundation to gut health. So yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and I wish you best of luck on your gut health journey.